My fantasy quilt is done, and I think I have mastered curves. At least I think I have. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is my weekly vlog for Monday, October the 7th, 2019. And as you can see in the title, we're going to talk a little bit about elections because we're in the middle of a federal election in Canada. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when I come to what's pissing me off this week. So let's see, current projects. Well, you can see behind me, I have finally finished what's called the fantasy quilt. That's what the instructor called it. It actually technically is a form of what they call the drunkard's path. But this one was a bit of a challenge because I had to do these round pieces. So I had a special ruler to cut those out with. And yeah, it all came together quite nicely. I'm really pleased with it. It is quilted. There's a string on it. Take that off. And I don't know if it's showing up, but it's sort of in a what they call pumpkin spice, I think, or something like that. Recommended to me by the person, Tracy, who runs the long arm establishment that I go to. I did do this on a long arm, and I did it as a pantograph. That's where you stand behind the long arm machine and follow a pattern with a laser light, and whatever you do with the pattern on the back, the needle does on the front on the quilt. And so that turned out pretty nice, and my binding came out good too as well. So I'm really pleased with this. It's a really large quilt. It's not a king size, but it's a good queen size anyways. So I might actually put this one on a bed upstairs in the guest bedroom, maybe. Or I might put it on our bed, I don't know, and move the one that's on our bed in there into the guest room. We'll see. But I definitely want this one to be out on display because I'm really pleased with it. So that class is done, and later this morning I'm going to go over, there's one session left in that particular class, but I'm already done. So I'm just going to take it over and show it to the people that were in the class, my finished product. I'm going to brag a little bit because I am kind of proud of that quilt. And I don't have any more sewing classes for a couple of weeks, and then I start two back to back, one on a Monday, one on a Tuesday. So a couple of more quilts there to get together. Okay, and yesterday, you will notice that I'm drinking water instead of coffee this morning. I've been having a little bit of heartburn lately, and I think it's because, once again, I've started to drink too much coffee. So laying back on that a little bit and see if that makes a difference. But anyways, had my art journaling class yesterday. Always have it on the first Sunday of every month. And as usual, my ladies at the beginning of class exchanged their ATCs, artist trading cards. And they're always so very generous. They make one for me as well. Maybe I should surprise them one week and actually make a set of my own ATC cards to share with them. I don't know. We'll see. But here, yeah, of course, the theme was Haunted. Very appropriate for October. This one is by Darla. It's very nice. And then this one is by Caroline, and she always experiments with various inks. I think she was experimenting here with something called the Nouveau Shimmer powders, and they're kind of like brushes, but they've got a little bit of a shine to them. And then she did some wet embossing as well, and she actually demoed this technique for us at the class the other day, which was very nice. It's a great group for that kind of thing because everybody shares any new ideas or new techniques they try. They like to show to the rest of the group so we can give it a try, which is great. This one is by Janine, by Joanne. Okay, she's got Janine. I can't make out her last name. I thought she went by Joanne, so I don't know. But it's very, very nice too. And then we have one by Anne. Nice 3D embellishment on there of the bird. She said she got those at a surplus store that I've been to before that's out of our area, but I've been there. And yeah, they sometimes have some great deals that you can pick up on scrapbooking or card making or mixed media products. This is by Kristen. Skull, kind of eerie. This is by Pat. Very nice. And this one by Gina is a little bit different because it's interactive. Ooh, that's kind of cool. The hat pops up. I like that. So these will go on to my wall of honor, which is getting really full. I actually have several walls of honor that are getting really full. And the other thing I want to show you, one of the ladies that actually works in the store, she gave me this thank you card. We had done something for her and her boyfriend some time ago, and so she gave me this lovely little thank you card that she had made, which is really cute, and a little note inside. So this is going on the wall of honor as well. And her name, by the way, is Liz. So if you ever contact Class Act, you might talk to Liz. Okay, she's kind of runs the store in many ways. Okay, some water. And let's move on to this week's YouTube channel. And it's a travel one this time. So it's not quilting, it's not crafting. It's travel for the most part, although this particular person does talk about some other things as well, but she's very entertaining, and her travel videos are very good. So take a look at this. This week's YouTube channel is called Syco Traveller, and although I don't tune into this one on a regular basis, I do watch it every now and then because there's a topic that catches my eye. She primarily looks at travel videos and talks about how to travel on a budget, things to see, things that may be off the beaten track for most tourists, which are all very interesting. But she also shares some of her personal life as well in some of her videos, and she talks about things she has bought or the way she does videos or what she's doing to her house. And her latest videos show them buying a old 1980s or 1970s Volkswagen van and what they're doing with that. So there's a little bit of something for everyone in this particular YouTube channel. So if you want something a little different, something that's a little bit of entertaining, she's got a great personality, then check out Syco Traveller. So the link is down below, as is the link to my blog and to Stephen and Walter Live. Now we were on 1 hour later this week because of my art journaling class. And next week, we're not sure when we're going to be on because here in Canada, it is Thanksgiving next weekend. And on the Sunday, during the time when we usually do Stephen and Walter Live, we will be at my sister's for dinner. So we're either going to do it earlier on Sunday, which would probably put it up around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, our time, Eastern Standard, or we'll do it at our usual time, but we'll do it one day earlier on the Saturday. It depends on what we're doing on the weekend and how that works out. So I will let you know with a short little video teaser like I give every week, so you will know exactly when we're coming on air. Sorry about that, but life gets in the way sometimes. Okay, and other lists below. We have a new episode of The Idiot Quilter where I talk about my trials and tribulations with my Janome 15,000 Horizon, my expensive sewing machine, some things I had to have done, and I talk about how to avoid problems with your sewing machine as well, based on my own personal experience, of course. There is also a link to this week's books, actually this week's magazines, and we'll come to that shortly. And also, I have a link to getting little tins, Altoid style tins, because I had the darndest time finding those kind of tins. You know, when you don't want something, you see plenty of it around and you don't think twice about it. Then, when you need something and you go looking for it, you can't find it. My art journaling class wants to do an altered tin in the November class. So I wanted to get a tin and do some, prototypes and things like that to share with them. Well, do you think I could find Altoids? I finally did. Altoids, if you don't know what they are, they're just a little peppermint, okay? A little, I don't know if it's a breath mint or what it is, just a little peppermint, and they come in a little can. And the can's really quite nice for making little mini journals or that kind of thing. And so I went looking for them, found them in one spot at a Shoppers Drug Mart, which is a drugstore chain here in Canada. But that's the only place I could find them. Meanwhile, I went on Amazon and I was able to order a box of, I think it came with 12 of the tins that are pretty much exactly the same as Altoid tins. $17.99 Canadian, including shipping, and it was on Prime, so I got it within 2 days of the order. And yes, so I have those. But then discovered there's probably another source that I hadn't thought of. Forgot all about this place. It's a place in a town, a couple of towns over from us, called Creative Bag, and they sell all kinds of things for showers and weddings and anniversaries and stuff like that. And they do have little tin boxes too. So later this week, I think Quilter and I will go over there and check that out. I'm getting a little low on my ribbon supply anyway, so I may stock up on some ribbon as well when I'm there, because they have a really good selection of really nice ribbons as well at very good prices. They're like wholesale prices. So anyways, I put the link for the Altoid tins from Amazon in my show notes, just in case you're looking for, something like this as well. Especially with, now that we're moving into starting to think about Christmas and that. If you're one of those kind of people that likes to make personalized gifts for others, the tins, the altered tins, might be a fun and different idea. And there are plenty of YouTube videos out there that show you how to make these altered tins, so check that out. Okay, so that brings us to what's pissing me off this week. Election surveys lie. Okay, that's probably obvious, but is it obvious? We're in the middle right now of the campaigning for our next federal election. The election day is the 21st of October, so we got about 2 weeks before we go to the polls. So of course you get these phone calls, usually around supper time, or in the evening later on. Sometimes manned by a person, sometimes manned by just a recording, asking your thoughts and feelings about certain key issues that the politicians are debating. Now, you have to question, who is it that's putting these surveys out? I suspect that because we get so many of them, they're being put out by the various political parties, trying to get a sense of what people want and how they can manipulate this information to make it look like they're ahead. This election is a fairly key election for us in Canada because the Conservatives are trying to gain power over the Liberals. The Conservatives are like the Republican Party in the United States. They're idiots. They are only for big businesses. They keep talking about putting more money into the pockets of the average Canadian. No, they'll take it out of that. I mean, it's not to say that any government that you get, any political party that gets into power, they all have their own agendas, and most of those agendas never work out in favor of the general populace. Let's face it, that's the way it is. So when you're doing an election, when you're thinking about who you're going to vote for, a lot of times it's who will do the least amount of damage to me is how people will vote. Or as some people put it, not so elegantly, which asshole do I want to put into power? Because they all are a-holes. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And I've talked about politicians before and what pisses me off about them, that they're really into all these things for themselves, and they promise us the stars and the moon and the sun while they're running, but once they get in, well, forget it. Okay, and we know this. Most people realize this is how politics work or don't work. I don't know which. But back to the surveys. The surveys ask you really dumb questions. They're usually worded in such a way that you can figure out which political party is sponsoring this particular survey. Like if it's the Liberals right now, they're really, one of the key issues for the Liberals is the environment. So they are going to ask you some leading questions about the environment. Like, would you be willing to pay a few dollars more a year in order to clean up our environment by 2025 or something like that? Well, if you say no, then you're an idiot. Yeah, like that looks bad on you. And if you say yes, well, they use that statistic right there to say that our party is going to fight for the environment, and because here's the survey, and 9 out of 10 with a error factor of -2.1 whatever have said that the environment's the most important issue and we're doing something about it. If the conservatives do a survey, they don't touch the environment, okay, because their plan for the environment is don't do anything that's going to cost big business money, in a form of a carbon tax or anything like that. So they'll avoid that question in their survey, but they'll ask you a question like, how do you feel about a woman's right to choose? The whole abortion issue. How are you, well, they're staying away from the same-sex marriage issue because that's been resolved. Actually, they're supposed to stay away from the abortion issue as well because that's been resolved in our country. But there will be members of that party that will bring it back up once they get into power. So, again, the leader of the Conservative Party says he will not reopen that. He didn't say anything, though, about issues that are related to, say, abortion or to the same-sex marriage or transgender rights or things like that. So they'll word their questions around the idea that they're going to put more money in your pocket. And usually their questions are geared to belittle the other parties that are running as well. So what I'm saying is, and what pisses me off about election surveys, well, there's several things. One, they're manipulative. That's a hard word to say. Manipulative. They screw you around. Okay. And they are one-sided. They're biased. Which begs the question of, if they're going to just screw around with the statistics and things like that, why are they bothering to do a survey? Why don't they just make up the lies like they usually do? I don't know. The other thing that bugs me about these political surveys is that you get them on a regular basis, on your cell phone, on your landline, at dinner time, in the evening, all this kind of stuff, okay? So already I'm inundated with duck cleaning salesmen. I don't need election surveys. Now, if it's a recorded one, I'll tell you this. If it's a recorded survey, I hang up the phone. If it's a live person on the end, I wait for their questions. And funny one was, I'm definitely not a conservative, as you can tell. I support the Liberal Party, always have, always will. And the Liberals here are something like sort of like the Democrats in the United States. It's kind of sad when I have to make an explanation of what our parties are like in comparison to the American system, but we hear so much about the American system that I guess that's a kind of a common ground for defining things. But anyways, if it's a person on the line, when one was on the line, she actually asked me if they could count on my support for the local conservative candidate. And I said, hell no. And I think that took her aback. I says, no, you cannot. And funny, she just wanted to get off the phone real quick at that point. Probably because the tone in my voice was, go ahead, challenge me on this one, baby. And she said, okay, well, thank you for your time. Bye-bye. Hang up. Okay, great. So it pisses me off that we're being inundated with stuff that really is a waste of our time, because the only information they glean from those surveys is the information they want to manipulate. Hey, I said the word. Don't chance it again. They're only taking that information from that they can use in their favor, of course. So, you hear these statistics all the time. The news quotes them and whatnot. Bottom line is you can't trust any of it. Go out, vote. That's how you show what your opinion really is about the political parties. And if you don't vote, you don't have an opinion. Simple as that. Okay, moving on. I've already talked about the little Altoid tins. Let me just grab one and show you what I was talking about before. Okay, so this is what they look like. Okay, I measured them against an Altoid tin, which I have one right over here. This is an Altoid tin, okay? And this is what I bought from Amazon. And as you can see, they're pretty much the same size. The only difference is the Altoid tin is a little deeper than these, which may or may not cause a problem, depends on what you're doing with them. I think what I'll do is I'll go out and get another couple of these Altoid tins. I'll have enough mints. Want a mint? Have a mint. See? These have been around for years, these little mints. Although Walter told me he'd never heard of them. I don't know. But I may buy another couple of these because then I have the little deeper base to it. And I saw some interesting things being done with these tins where people put them together. I got the hiccups now. Figures. And hinge them. Like take the tops off and hinge them together, and that gives you more real estate. And I saw a lot of really interesting things on YouTube. This is my box. See, there we go. Got all those tins. Pretty good deal. $17.99. I thought that was good. But anyways, all kinds of things you can do with an altered tin. And as I said, just do a search on YouTube. You'll find like all kinds of ideas. Some really nice things on there. So that's what my project will be this month. One of my many projects actually is to see what I can do with these tins as well. Okay, so what's that taking us to? Book of the week. The book of the week this week is a magazine. This is a Canadian magazine. Okay, now you'll notice that on this one, these are the same magazine, well, different issues, but same magazine. This is called Canadian Scrapbooker. This one is called Creative Scrapbooker. Okay, now, what are they? What they say. They are scrapbooking magazines that come out, I think, about 4 times a year. They're high gloss, nice quality paper, good diagrams, lots of great ideas in these. And I used to subscribe to it and used to pick them up on a regular basis. I have stopped doing so because I have found now that I'm not so much into scrapbooking. And these have a lot of advertising as well, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because they're advertising new products in the scrapbooking market. So it's kind of fun to look at those ads a little bit more carefully and see what's out there. But since I'm not doing a lot of scrapbooking anymore, and to be honest, I find that after a while, though these are really nice magazines, it's the same old, same old. There isn't a lot of stuff that's really new under the sun. Unlike the ones I talked about last week in the Stamping Tin Company, they actually do go out of their way to find new and unique techniques and products and creations. Whereas this, it's basically same old, same old. However, if you're into scrapbooking and you are Canadian, this is the book for you. Now, price-wise, this one was $7.99, but it's probably gone up. Yeah, gone up a lot. Let's see. What year was that? Okay, not sure what the year was. Volume 6. Okay, it would be really nice if they printed their year. Just bear with me for one moment here. I cannot find the year in here at all. But anyways, it had gone, this must be an older issue because this one was only $7.99 Canadian. It is now, this one in 2016 is $11.99. So they're probably getting close to the price that the Stamping Tin Company are as well. Now, a side note here, and this should have been in what's pissing me off. What's pissing me off is they changed their name. This, when they started, it was called the Canadian Scrapbooker. Then they mysteriously changed the name to Creative Scrapbooker. And the only thing I can think of is that when they call it Canadian Scrapbooker, people in the States may have ignored it because they figured it was just about for Canadians or something like that. So by putting Creative Scrapbooker on it, it opens up a wider audience. Maybe. That's the only reason I can think of why they would have changed the name. And if that is the reason why they changed the name, I think that's very sad. And that's just another example how for us here in Canada that if you're going to be a business, you're going to make any money, you're going to have some tie to the Americans in some form, which is sad. Okay, very sad. Okay, so the link for those magazines is in the show notes below. Okay, so that takes us to Works in Process. We're into a new series right now, a new iCraft kit, and this is the Scalloped Gatefold album. And so this week I show you how to assemble it. Today I'm going to put together the iCraft Scalloped Gatefold album, and this looks very elegant. And I checked out the back of the box, as I usually do, where it shows you the number of pieces, and really it's very simple. There's a base piece, there's 2 pieces that go on either side, and those are the fold-overs for the cover, and then 8 pages. So this particular album has about 16 spots for photos or journaling. And you can see here they have a diagram on the back of what it will look like when you have it together, and also on the front. Now it does say that the set contains one set of 11 pieces each of black and craft cardstock. So essentially you can put together 2 albums out of this kit. And it also says this scrapbook can contain 21 photographs. So I'm not sure where they're coming up with 21, but we'll take a look at that. And the final size of the scrapbook, it says, would be 6 inches by 6.5 inches. So not a bad size. So when I opened up the package, there was an instruction sheet. This is kind of a hit and miss. I think maybe over time, as they develop their kits a little bit further, they will have an instruction sheet in each one. Again, I've already read this instruction sheet, and for this particular album, it looks like it's pretty easy to assemble, unlike a few of the other albums. And part of the problem is it's not that those albums are hard to put together. If you've been following my series, you will know that. But the instructions have some flaws in them, and I think that's because their native tongue is not English, and they're trying to write these in English. So, as all of their instructions start out with, they have a diagram and description of the number of pieces. And it says this kit contains 11 parts of craft and black paper each. And they show the craft on here, and they've got the pieces labeled. And then it goes through with the instructions. And I have done some pre-reading of this so that I don't stumble over putting it together. But as I said, I found this one very, very simple because there's not that much to the construction. So let's just put the instructions off to the side for now. And it said it had black and it had craft, and it does. And there's all the pieces for a black. But I'm going to put together the craft because I think it shows up a little better on camera. So they say there's a base piece, and I've labeled my pieces according to the diagram. There's the base piece. They call that number 1. And then there's 2 cover pieces, and one is the right cover and one is the left cover. And I also numbered those according to their diagram. Then these that are left over, there are 8 pages. Now things are already pre-scored for you, and I have done some pre-folding. So this has 2 score lines on each cover, so very simple to fold them over. You just have to make sure you fold them over the right way, because you want your left flap to attach this way, and you want your right flap to attach this way. So I have them both folded, and I've already put my double-sided tape on the hinge for each one of these, and I used my bone folder just to make sure they adhere. Now, you know, I have said before in the past that sometimes I find with this particular craft stock that they include in their kit that sometimes my double-sided tape doesn't hold that well. So I would suggest probably using a wet glue if that's a problem for you. I'm doing this one as the prototype, so essentially I'm not that concerned about how secure it is. When I do the next segment and do the decorating, I will use the black one, and I find that the double-sided tape sticks much better to that. But it doesn't hurt to use a wet glue as well, just for extra security. So I'm just going to take my tape off both these pieces. Maybe. Here we go. Okay. And I'm just going to put the left one down. Now, I think it might be easier if you fold this over the hinge and line it up with the bottom part. So the bottom of the hinge with the bottom of the base. And this is a little awkward when I have it in camera, so if I get my head in the way or put it in a funny position, please excuse me. So line that up best as I can. Make sure that it's straight. And so there's my left cover. And you can see here it creates a spine, and that's where the pages are going to go. So let's do the same thing on the other side. Fold that over, match up the bottom corner of each piece, and line it up with the edge. Try to keep it straight. And there we go. And just varnish that down. Okay. So we now have the covers in place. Spines on the side. Pretty simple so far. So the next stage is to put the pages in, and according to the instructions, let's just get those out again. If you notice here in step 2, it says complete look of base attached to both covers. Okay, this is where the English breaks down, but basically they're showing you what I just showed you, what it should look like at this point. So step 3, attach the page on left cover on the pasting margin of left cover. Okay, and then similarly repeat the process for the other 3 pages on the left side. All right, so easy enough. Even though the English is broken, I think I've got it figured out. I've already placed my tape on the hinge, and these hinges are scored. Maybe you can see it there better. I have not yet folded these over because I'm thinking what I want to do is it might make it a little easier to simply line this up with the edge. Now, I'm thinking here, probably has to go on the inside, and maybe it's not that easy. Yeah, it would be. I just flip this around, and I'm going to line up the edge of my hinge here with the score line on the fold of the cover. So, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to line it up bottoms to bottoms and the hinged piece in. Now, I'm just going to carefully fold that on the score line, and I now have my first page in. So now the second page, we want to butt up to that fold, just like that. Fold it back and score it. Again, this is where I can see that wet glue might be better than double-sided tape, at least on the craft cardstock, because I think it would stick better. It initially sticks all right, but then you've got, this is in my way. Let's just fold this one back out of my way for a second. There we go. And we're going to butt this up to that previous page. Try to keep it straight. This is where you can go off a little crooked. And fold it on the score line. And then our last page for this side, there's 4 pages per side. And if you've done this right, okay. So I have the left side of the album. Pages are all in and secure. And now we're going to do the other side. So I'll do that off camera and be back in a second. Okay, so I have the whole album assembled. It didn't take long at all. It took about 5-10 minutes to do this. And I'll show you what it looks like now. So you have your 2 outside covers, and inside what I've done is I have alternated the pages when I close it up. So one page this way, 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 one page this way. And the reason for doing that is because I think when you get 3D embellishments on it, it will let the album sit a little flatter than if you put all the pages on top of each other like this. So it did say that there's room for 21 pictures. Well, we have 4 pages on this side and we have 4 pages on this side. I'm trying to ignore my clock. And so that would give me 8 here and 8 here. That's 16. 1 in the middle. That's 17. I suppose you could put 1 here. 18. 19. Okay, they say 21. So I guess you could put 1, 20, 21 on the outside covers, I guess. I think that's stretching it a little bit because I don't think I'd want to put my pictures, well, you might, on the outside cover. But anyways, you do have the possibility of getting in 19 pictures anyways. So that's all there is to putting this together. Now the next stage of this is going to be my background papers. Now, I think in the case of this album, I'm going to do what I have done with other albums, and that is before I assemble the album, I think I'm going to put on my background pages. It's going to be easy enough on these, on the pages themselves, to do that, but we got a little problem with the covers because these I'm not going to be able to cut out as straight lines. So I think I'm going to have to use the cover pages and the base page as a template for cutting out my background papers. So I think it would be easier to do that when the album hasn't been assembled yet. So in the next segment, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut out my background papers and I'm going to adhere them, and I'll show you how that works. So next week we'll look at putting in the background papers. Okay, that takes us to events in the past week, update on my mother, nothing much new there. She's still annoying me. She comes up with things every time I go over, there's a new problem to solve. This week, I thought I'd solved the problem the week before, but her headphones aren't working again. Well, it's not the headphones. It's actually the jack attached to the television set, and they just nothing. So I don't know what's happened to it. I have a feeling that when she's unplugged it and plugged it in, she's, jerked it around a little bit and it's probably caused a short or something inside. Thing is, I can't fix it. It wasn't an expensive television set, a couple of $100 at Costco, something like that. So, you get what you pay for. So I've got her set up for, I said to her, well, what do you need the headphones for anyways, Mom? Because this is what she does. She turns the volume way up on the television set when it's plugged into the headphones, and the headphones sit on her bed, and she's sitting in her wheelchair, and she's listening to the TV through the headphones, but not wearing the headphones. Weird. Now, I don't know, maybe she does that so it doesn't disturb her roommate, although her roommate is pretty much comatose. I don't think anything disturbs that lady at all. And she has them so bloody loud, if she put them on her head, it would just like her brains would come out of her ears, sort of a thing. Which I really should talk to her about getting her ears checked, her hearing tested. But anyways, I said to her, look, Mom, just watch your TV with the usual volume on it. If you're watching it in bed and you're afraid you're going to disturb anybody, you're right next to it in your bed. It's like 12 inches away from her head, pretty much. Then just turn it down a little bit. I'm sure that it's not bothering anybody with it. So anyways, it's the best we can do. I mean, the other thing is I'd have to go out and buy a new television set. And I'm a little loath to do that because this is a perfectly good TV set. It's just that the audio doesn't work on it for her headphones. And getting it fixed, it wouldn't be worth it to try and even get it fixed. And is it still under warranty? just barely, if it's that. But, you know, you got to go through rigmarole about it. I think I bought it at Costco. I'll have to ask Walter about it, because now I'm just thinking, you know, you can take things back to Costco. So I might be able to take it back and get another one. Possibility. But anyways, we'll see. But yeah, that's always a new problem I have to solve when I'm over there. Oh, and the fact that we couldn't find the remote control that runs the TV set itself. You don't need it, because she's on Bell, which is our provider of, you know, internet, television, phone communications, that kind of stuff. She's on Bell, so the little box that they use for the channel selection has its own remote control, and it also controls the volume on the TV and channel selection and stuff like that. The only time you need the remote control for the TV is when you want to get into its menu system, and I think I mentioned that last week. Well, I got her another remote control. I ordered it off from Amazon. It came within 2 days. Great, wonderful. I get over there last week, and lo and behold, the old one is sitting on next to her TV set. And I said, where'd that come from? And she says, oh, well, it was in the bottom drawer. Well, no, it wasn't. Okay, the reason I know it wasn't in the bottom drawer is I took everything out of her bottom drawer when I was looking for it, and it was not there. But I had mentioned that maybe it never came when she got moved to the new room she's in now. It may have gotten left behind in the old room. Well, she must have said something to one of the nurses or something about this, and they probably went into the other room and looked and found it. Lo and behold, there it was in the bottom drawer of her old nightstand in the other room, and they brought it in. But she didn't tell me these things. She also doesn't tell me that she had made arrangements with the in-house hairdresser to get a perm. Now, that's fine. I mean, if my mother wants to get her hair done, she can get her hair done. That's not a big problem. The big problem, though, is the last time she got a perm there, it was horrible. Well, her hair was shorter, and the lady had to use the smallest rods in it, and it just was a really tight perm, and my mother hated it. And well, she cursed and swore about how bad this hairdresser was. And I said to her, well, she's the only one ball game in town. And I mean, I said to her, Mom, you were used to going to the same hairdresser for like 40 or 50 years. Okay? You got to break in a hairdresser. You know, it takes them time to get used to the style that you want. So anyway, I said to her, give her a chance. Well, she's gone back to her several times for trims and stuff like that. But anyways, I don't know what I'm going to see tomorrow when I go over to visit with her, because I said to her on the phone, I said, so I heard you got your hair permed. And she said, oh, well, I didn't want you or your sister to know about that. And I said, why? And I said, well, because you guys wouldn't want me to do it. I said, no, Mom. The only reason we gave you a hard time about the last perm was, and the reason you had problems with it, was because your hair was so over-processed that basically she was curling straw. And that your hair now, you've let it grow out for, you know, the last 6 months or so. So, you know, all that product and everything should be pretty much out of your hair. And, you know, and her hair was looking a little healthier. And Walter also said she's eating better now. So, you know, when she was living in the apartment there near before she went into the hospital and into the nursing home, we didn't realize it, but she was basically not getting the nutrition she needed. So that, of course, affects your hair, right? So anyways, she's got this perm, and the reason I knew she got a perm is because, of course, the bill comes to me, because I look after her finances and everything. So I knew that she had gotten it done. And I said to her, do you like it? And she says, oh, yes, she liked it. Well, I thought that's good. So I don't know what I'm going to see tomorrow. Possibly, you know, a little orphan Annie kind of look. I'm not sure. But if she's happy, that's all that matters. Okay? A happy mother means a happy son. Okay? Simple as that. Okay, so that's about my mother. I got hired to work bar at the art gallery. Haven't done that since about last June, I think was last time that I worked bar there. They were having a special event, a film festival. And so I got asked if I could come in and do bar, and I did. They weren't heavy tippers that night. I only made about $15 in tips. But they also pay me hourly for my time. Not a lot, minimum wage, which here in Ontario is $14 an hour. So, you know, I made, counting the tips, I make about $65. But 4 hours work, I guess that's not bad for it. I like doing it, so that's okay too. So that was the height of the week, was doing that, I guess. And yeah, nothing else went on really this week. Oh, I did get my sewing machine back, and it's working and it's purring like a kitten. That's great. And I do have, as I mentioned earlier, an idiot quilter segment talking about what I had to go through to get my sewing machine up and running again. And that was probably my stomach you just heard. Okay, it wants to have its own YouTube channel. And what's coming up? Well, I already mentioned Canadian Thanksgiving, so that's on the weekend. So that's a 3-day weekend for us. And yeah, Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving. So there you go. Get together with my sister, have dinner. That'll be nice. And yeah, so that's the week that was, I guess. Nothing else really to tell you. So I hope you have a good week. And just a reminder that we're not sure when Stephen and Walter will be on this coming weekend. Possibly Saturday, possibly earlier on Sunday. I will put out a short little video clip to let you know when I know. And have a good one. Have a great week. Have a great weekend coming up. Bye for now.